to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy is a strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep to the end zone. Up the middle of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. He's at the 40, he's at 45, 50, 45, 40, 31, 30, 45, 40, 50, 10, 5, touchdown. Just like last year, a game start. Roll out.
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
Welcome back to the Heisman Trophy podcast. This is a very special episode. This is the 50th episode all time of the Heisman Trophy podcast. It's a very exciting milestone. We've been around for quite a bit now. And before we move along to the rest of the show, I just want to thank everyone out there who is a regular listener or who helps support the show. We're really starting to see some exciting growth with the podcast, especially over on our YouTube channel. And I think one of the reasons people like the show is that once a week we focus on a player. We have a special guest, one of the best players in the country, and we try to get to know them a little bit, try to take the helmet off to see what's beneath it. It's not always easy to do when you've only got 10, 15 minutes with someone, but I think more often than not, we get good insights from our guests. And to be fair, if you're a college football player and you come on a show called the Heisman Trophy Podcast, you might get a little nervous. That wasn't the case with the man I call Mr. 80%, Julian Sayin, redshirt freshman quarterback for the Ohio State University Buckeyes. We're going to talk with him in just a second, but let's go over his numbers through 9 games. 2,491 yards, 24 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, leads the nation with a 192.6 passer efficiency rating, and his completion percentage of 80.9. That is easily on pace to break the NCAA record, and take it from someone who's been around this game for a long time, a number like that can win a guy the Heisman on its own. This is not to say this race is over. Far from it. And you know, every year I get excited about the Heisman, but this year is shaping up to be as dramatic a race as we've had in quite a while. There really are, I think, 4 or 5 players who even at this late stage have a legitimate chance to win the Heisman Trophy. And that's usually not the case this late in the season. Looking ahead to the next few weeks, I don't see the schedule giving any one of the candidates any special advantage over any of the others. I mean, Haynes King and Georgia Tech will get to play Georgia and maybe the ACC title game at the end of the year. That's an opportunity for him. Ty Simpson of Alabama has a marquee matchup with Oklahoma this weekend, and then perhaps the SEC title game. Marcel Reed and Texas A&M will get Texas at the end, and then perhaps the SEC title game. And of course, the centerpiece of it all could be the clash of the Titans, number 1 versus number 2, Ohio State and Indiana in the Big Ten title game. Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think this is pretty intriguing. And the fact of the matter is, the Heisman Trophy race this year is way more interesting than the race for the national championship.
This is Archie Griffin, 1974, 1975's Heisman Trophy winner, and you're listening to the official Heisman Podcast.
The Heisman is handed out every December, but the history of the trophy lives year-round at Heisman.com. Home to the most iconic trophy in sports, Heisman.com tells the story of all 90 of our winners and features news, bios, and statistics on all your favorite Heisman heroes. Heisman.com also highlights our Heisman humanitarians, the many charities supported by the Heisman Trust, and so much more. Make Heisman.com your first stop for all things Heisman. All right, Julian Sayin, Ohio State redshirt freshman quarterback. Thanks for coming on the Heisman Trophy podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Julian, you're in your first year as a starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. After spending last year as a backup, you obviously got a different perspective on things now that you're the starter. But how would you compare this year's team so far with last year's squad, the squad that stumbled a couple times during the season, but pulled it together during the playoff?
Yeah, I think last year's team, they had a lot of veterans. So it's definitely a different team than last year. We're a pretty young team this year. We're still growing every week and trying to get better. I feel like, the guys on this year's team took so much from last year's team, just that leadership roles they had, being in the room with Will Howard last year. It was awesome to see the leadership and, took so many things from him. So I think, the guys on this year's team, we're a younger team, but we took a lot from last year's team and in those, veteran roles.
Julian, I was at the game versus Texas when you had your first start, and something stood out about you right away, and that was not just your accuracy, but your ball placement. You were 13 of 20 in that game, and I think there were 2 or 3 drops in there. So just looking at the box score didn't really tell the whole story, but I remember telling a friend of mine, halfway through the game that you were the most accurate passer in college football. And my friend said, how can you say that after just one game? And I said, because it's true. And then the next week you were 18 of 19 and they didn't question me again on it. But, a lot of quarterbacks these days have high completion percentages because there's lots of easy short throws that are just like long handoffs. But to me, it's the consistency on your ball placement that separates you. And I'm curious what your method was to help develop that ability.
Yeah, I think growing up, I've always been an accurate passer. But it takes a lot of work and practice and being on the same timing with your receivers and the offensive line, protecting up front, and then, being able to see the receivers break and anticipate the window. And, obviously they got to make contested catches as well, which will only boost the completion percentage. So I think it's a lot of things that factor into that, but I think just the practice and the reps and the timing of it, getting on the same page with the guys.
When I play darts, I need to throw into a small window. And one thing I do is I use my eyes and I kind of design a larger window out of other shapes and colors surrounding the target. And that kind of helps me get the dart into the right area. Is that kind of similar to how you do it?
Yeah, I think, last year, Coach Chip Kelly, we always talked about, you got to be able to see small and then see big also. You got to be able to see the whole picture, but then also really kind of laser focus on the window you want to throw it in and, exactly where you want to put the ball. So that's something that, I try to focus on.
You didn't complete this high of a percentage in high school. Are you that much better now, or does college football just come easier to you than you thought?
I think it's a combination of things. We have some really good players here at Ohio State, so I think the receivers are always making contested catches. The offensive line is doing a great job of protection, and I think my understanding of the game has just grown a little bit more just because of the coaching that I've gotten here at Ohio State, and it's only going to continue to grow. I'm still trying to develop that area.
Back to the Texas game, it seemed like the offense was a bit buttoned up in that one. Things have since opened up a bit. Was that a product of the opponent and wanting to play close to the vest, or was it about bringing you along slowly in that game?
Yeah, I think, Texas they were a defense that, they were kind of try to keep things in front of them. And then also, it was my first start. So I think, we were just a little bit, try to take things a little bit slowly. And, I think, we executed as an offense in the run game at some good things. So I think, it was kind of a byproduct of both things.
You didn't seem very nervous. Did you feel nervous going out there?
There was definitely some nerves before the game, but once you get kind of tackled that first time, you start to lose the nerves and you just get ready to go play football.
Yeah, you're now looking very comfortable running the offense. Your accuracy on deep balls is off the charts. You can throw it on the run or on the pocket. What's an area where you think there is still room for improvement, not only for you, but for the offense as a whole?
Yeah, I think, there's still a bunch of room for me to grow. I think, in my protection game, my pocket presence, can I, slide and be able to get to my fourth progression, and then I think just, overall, just my understanding of the game. And, there's still so many areas that I want to keep getting better at and keep growing and keep developing.
Going back to the beginning, when did you first start gravitating toward football and playing quarterback?
Yeah, I think growing up, maybe around like 7 or 8 years old, my brother, he's 2 years older than me. So he was playing quarterback and, kind of always just, kind of just followed in his footsteps, and I was playing quarterback myself and just developed that love for the game and really just didn't want to ever, stop playing football. So I think that kind of love for the game just developed when I was growing up with my brother, and, we were always competing playing quarterback.
Did you play any other sports growing up?
I didn't really, I played basketball and lacrosse a little bit, but it wasn't, I wasn't like a serious sports. Once I kind of got to 7th and 8th grade, I, stopped playing and just continued on football.
It's always great to have an older brother to compete against. What kind of things did you guys do to compete against each other when you were kids?
We competed in everything. I mean, whether it was NCAA 14 or if we were, if we were out on the football field, we were, competing and seeing who could throw the ball better, who could throw it, and when I was a freshman in high school, he was a senior. So I was I was the backup and he was the starter on varsity. So we had so much fun in practice just competing.
Nice. Who did you look to as a quarterback role model growing up? Was it your brother or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I think my brother was definitely someone who I looked up to. And then, in the NFL, growing up, I was kind of growing up watching the era of like, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady. So that was kind of my era growing up. And I'm a Chargers fan, so I was also a Phillip Rivers fan. So growing up, those are kind of the guys I watched.
Did you follow college football at all at that point? Did you have a favorite team?
Growing up, my guy was Marcus Mariota. Growing up on the West Coast, Oregon was big, and the uniforms and having a guy like Marcus, who could really be a dynamic player. That was kind of the team growing up when I was younger.
You got your first scholarship offer in 8th grade, and there was a lot of teams going after you. Tell me about that recruiting process and how you ended up finally going with Alabama.
Yeah, I was blessed to be able to be recruited by some great schools, and I was kind of looking at, when I was finally come down to it, I was looking at like Alabama, and Georgia, and a little bit of LSU too. I think just growing up, I wanted to go play in the highest level of football possible. So that was kind of what gravitated me towards those schools, and then I wanted to go play for someone like Coach Sayin. So I think that's kind of what ultimately made my decision to go to Alabama.
Yeah, of course, not long after getting there, he retired. Describe to me what went through your mind when that happened and how you ended up deciding on Ohio State.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy time when he retired, and I just felt like it was my best decision to enter the transfer portal. And I when I was in the portal, I was I decided on Ohio State because of I think the quarterback pedigree that Coach Day has had there, the development that he has, and then just the talent level. And you see the receiver room, you see everything that they have here. They're trying to be the best in the world at what they do.
You're a Southern California kid who has spent time now in Alabama and now Ohio. What's it been like adjusting to not only the different weather, but also the different lifestyle that these other states have to offer?
Yeah, California and Ohio are definitely a little bit different. We just got some snow today, actually, in Ohio. But it's definitely different. But I'm growing to really love it here, and the people here are really special.
Have you played at any cold temperatures so far? I can't remember what the last few games how cold it was, but have you really faced the really cold weather yet?
This season, we've been getting some pretty good weather for the past games. Last year, we had the Tennessee game was really cold. There were some cold games last year, and just developing or kind of like acclimating to that weather and getting to see it in practice and preparing for it.
Does the ball float much differently for you in the cold?
I don't think it does. I'm trying to get acclimated and work through it in practice. So win the game, your money.
Yeah, waiting at the end of the season is the big game against Michigan. How much has that rivalry come to mean to you in the short time you've been in Columbus?
Yeah, I think you see the rivalry and how much it means to the people in this state and the people in this city. It's definitely something that I know how important it is, and we're ready for it.
Ohio State is pushing not only you, but Jeremiah Smith for the Heisman. Jeremiah was on the show earlier this year, so we've now had both Buckeye Heisman candidates on. What did you think when you first started hearing your name associated with the Heisman?
Yeah, it was a great honor. We're focused on winning more games and team success, and but it was definitely a great honor. And it's awesome to see a guy like Jeremiah, who's a really special player, and deserving of all the accolades too.
The last Buckeye to win it was Troy Smith in 2006. And of course, Archie Griffin this year celebrates the 50th anniversary of his second Heisman. What kind of relationship, if any, have you had with some of these Buckeye legends?
Yeah, I've been able to talk to Troy Smith in the offseason, being number 10 like him. So I was able to talk to him in the offseason, and he's a great dude and an awesome person, awesome mentor.
Have you ever been to New York City before?
I have when I was younger, growing up. I went there for Christmas a couple of years. It's pretty special in December.
What would it mean for you personally to make it there as a finalist, at least?
It would be an extremely great honor. I mean, growing up, that was what you dreamed of. Seeing guys like Marcus Mariota and other guys up there for the award it's definitely a really special honor, and it would be a dream come true.
All right, let's do a few rapid fire questions to close this out. What's your favorite part about playing quarterback?
Favorite part about playing quarterback is I think you just have the most impact on the game.
What's your favorite pregame hype song?
Pregame hype song? I don't really get too hyped up. I'd say I'll go 7 Summers by Morgan Wallen. I kind of try to keep it chill.
All right. Who's your dream dinner guest, past or present?
Past or present? I'd probably say Michael Jordan, just the competitive edge that he has.
What's one word your friends would use to describe you?
I think routine based.
If football didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
That's tough. I'd probably at the beach in California doing something.
Nice. Do you have any superstitions on or off the field?
I don't know. Some people, a lot of people that I've played football with kind of growing up have superstitions. I don't really have any.
Okay. Who's your most competitive teammate besides you?
Competitive teammate. I think we have some really competitive teammates. I think Jeremiah is a really competitive guy. He wants to win in everything he does.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about living in Columbus?
I think, it's a really good city. There's a lot of good food here, a lot of things to do. I didn't really anticipate that when I was first coming here. I'd never been here.
Yeah.
So it's a good city.
Were you anonymous last year walking around going when you were a redshirt freshman?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now those days are over, right? You pretty much can't go anywhere, right?
Yeah. Not as bad as like Jeremiah. Jeremiah definitely can't go anywhere.
Yeah, he's pretty popular.
Yeah.
When you go home to California, what's the first meal you ask for?
I go breakfast burrito when I go home. And then, like tacos. Really, the Mexican food back home is it's second to none.
Absolutely. And finally, what's a talent you have that few people know about?
I mean, before I got here, like when I got here, nobody really knew that, like I go on the water, like I boogie board surf. Nobody really knew that about me until I got here. So
I think that's expected if you're from Southern California, especially around Carlsbad area.
They were like, people were asking me at first, they were like, so like, do you like get, like, you ever been in the ocean? I was like, yeah, like I was in there like every day growing up.
Oh, well, Julian Sayin, good luck against UCLA this Saturday. Thanks for coming on the show. Good luck the rest of the season, and maybe if all goes right, we'll see you in New York.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was Julian Sayin, the man I call Mr. 80%. Just a redshirt freshman. He's doing some amazing things already for the Ohio State Buckeyes, a prime Heisman Trophy candidate. The second Buckeye to come on the show this year, along with Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State fans, if you're here for the first time, show me some love. Give us a like, a subscribe, review, tell your family, tell your friends all about the Heisman Trophy podcast. We feature the best players in the country week in and week out. And in about 5 weeks, there's a very good chance that one of the players that we talk to on this show is going to be the next Heisman Trophy winner, which is exciting for a lot of reasons, but not least because in the future, one of them can give me a promo for the show, just like the great Barry Sanders.
Hey guys, this is Barry Sanders, the 1988 Heisman Trophy winner, and you are listening to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Did you know that the Heisman Trophy Trust has donated more than $20 million to a huge variety of charity-based groups via its Heisman Trophy Fund for Youth Development? That's right, the fund has helped countless charitable organizations that uses sports to engage underprivileged young people in educational activities. If you are part of an organization or know of one that would like to apply for funding, visit Heisman.com and click on the charities link at the top of the site. This past Tuesday was Veterans Day, so we decided to replay a segment we did a couple years ago on Heisman winners who were also veterans. The Heisman Trophy's first few decades were populated with many winners who served, and it is always a worthy endeavor to look back on their history and share some of their stories. The first winner of the Heisman Trophy, Jay Berwanger of Chicago, enrolled in the Navy's flight training program and became a naval officer during World War II, serving as a flight instructor and reaching the rank of lieutenant commander before going into private business. 1937 winner Clinton Frank of Yale attained the rank of lieutenant colonel in the Army Air Corps, serving 5 years during World War II, and also served as an aide to General Jimmy Doolittle, who led the Tokyo raid in 1942. Iowa's 1939 winner Niall Kinnick is the only Heisman winner to die in service and the first to die. Kinnick, the Hawkeyes student body president as a senior, was a very articulate young man who didn't shy away from sharing his feelings on the politics of his time. After he won the Heisman Trophy and 2 years before Pearl Harbor, he gave a memorable speech at the Heisman ceremony about how grateful he was to be able to play on the gridirons in the States and not the battlefronts overseas.
Thank you very, very kindly, Mr. Hope. It seems to me that everyone is letting their superlatives run away with them this evening, but nonetheless, I want you to know that I'm mighty, mighty happy to accept this trophy this evening. Every football player in these United States dreams about winning that trophy and of this fine trip to New York. Every player considers that trophy the acme in recognition of this kind. And the fact that I am actually receiving this trophy tonight almost overwhelms me. And I know that all those boys who have gone before me must have felt somewhat the same way. From my own personal viewpoint, I consider my winning this award as indirectly a great tribute to the new coaching staff at the University of Iowa, headed by Dr. Eddie Anderson, and to my teammates sitting back in Iowa City. A finer man and a better coach never hit these United States. And a finer bunch of boys and a more courageous bunch of boys never graced the gridirons of the Midwest than that Iowa team of 1939. I wish that they might all be with me tonight to receive this trophy. They certainly deserve it. I want to take this grand opportunity to thank collectively all the sports writers and all the sportscasters and all those who have seen their way clear to cast a ballot in my favor for this trophy. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Prince and his committee, the Heisman Award Committee, and all those connected with the Downtown Athletic Club for this trophy and for the fine time that they're showing me. And not only for that, but for making this fine and worthy trophy available to the football players of this country. Finally, if you will permit me, I'd like to make a comment which in my mind is indicative perhaps of the greater significance of football and sports emphasis in general in this country, and that is, I thank God I was warring on the gridirons of the Midwest and not on the battlefields of Europe.
The following spring, he gave a commencement address at a dinner with his fellow 1940 graduates at Iowa, which included these thoughtful remarks. Injustice, oppression, and war will ultimately bring on their own destruction. Suffering and misery eventually awaken the human race, Kinnick declared. But that is the long, sad, unenlightened road we have taken in the centuries past. Now is the time for these problems to be solved by enlightened thought and understanding. We can accomplish much if we implement mental discipline and inspiration with a real mental courage. His comments during his 1939 speech reflected an isolationist frame of mind of many in the country. By 1941, moods had shifted. Kinnick entered law school in the fall of 1940, but left after 1 year and enlisted in the Naval Air Reserve, reporting for induction 3 days before the attack on Pearl Harbor. On June 2, 1943, Kinnick was on a routine training flight from the aircraft carrier USS Lexington, the ship's initial voyage, when his F-4F Wildcat developed an oil leak. Kinnick was forced to execute an emergency landing in the water 4 miles from the ship, but he died in the process 5 weeks shy of his 25th birthday. Per a biography called Kinnick, the Man and the Legend, he once wrote, "There is no reason in the world why we shouldn't fight for the preservation of a chance to live freely. No reason why we shouldn't suffer to uphold that which we want to endure. May God give me the courage to do my duty and not falter." 1940 Heisman winner Tom Harmon enlisted in the Army Air Corps in November of 1941 and served as a pilot. Twice, planes he piloted went down during World War II, including once in 1943 when, en route to North Africa, he was forced to parachute into a South American jungle. 4 days later, he was found after safely walking into Dutch Guyana. Like Kinnick, Minnesota's 1941 Heisman Trophy winner Bruce Smith also gave a moving speech at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. It was held just 2 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Smith, who would go on to serve in the Navy as a fighter pilot, rewrote his speech on the train to New York where he was to receive his trophy. Reflecting the sober reality of many young men such as him, he said,
"Those Far Eastern fellows may think that American boys are soft, but I have had, and even have now, plenty of evidence in black and blue to show that they are making a big mistake. I think America will owe a great debt to the game of football when we finish this thing off. It keeps millions of American youngsters like myself hard and able to take it and come back for more, both from the physical standpoint and that of morale. It teaches team play and cooperation and eggs us on to go out and fight hard for the honor of our school, and likewise, the same spirit can be depended on when we have to fight like blazes to defend our country."
Coverage of the Heisman ceremony had to be cut short that night as President Franklin Roosevelt was set to give a radio address to the nation from the White House at 10 p.m.
Powerful and resourceful gangsters have banded together to make war upon the whole human race.
Georgia's 1942 winner Frank Sinkwich briefly served in both the U.S. Merchant Marines and the Air Force. He was already enlisted in the Marine Reserves upon winning the Heisman, and he wore his uniform to the ceremony. Instead of receiving the bronze statue that had become the norm, he received a scroll honoring his achievement. A shortage of materials made the Downtown Athletic Club decide to use scrolls until the war ended. Notre Dame's 1943 winner Angelo Bertelli enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserves in 1942 while still with the Irish, and he missed the initial trophy presentation while in Marine Corps training. Bertelli rose to the rank of second lieutenant in 1944 and participated in combat operations in the Pacific in 1945, including at the Battle of Iwo Jima, where he was nearly killed by a closely landed mortar. He was stationed in Nagasaki when World War II ended. He later joined the Marine Corps Reserve and served until 1957, reaching the rank of captain. Ohio State's 1944 winner Les Horvath graduated from dental school in 1945 and joined the Navy, where he was a junior lieutenant for 3 years from 1945 to 1947, as well as a dentist. His service included travel to China as a naval dental officer. Army's Glenn Davis, the 1946 Heisman winner, served 3 years in the Army and reported to Korea before the war. His teammate, Felix Doc Blanchard, 1945, chose to embark upon a career in the U.S. Air Force as a fighter pilot. He garnered a commendation for bravery in 1959 while with the 77th Tactical Fighter Squadron for preventing his faltering F-100 Super Sabre from crashing into a village. Despite it being on fire and having the opportunity to parachute to safety, he stayed with the plane and made a perfect landing. He later flew 113 missions from Thailand during the Vietnam War, 84 of them over North Vietnam, and retired from the Air Force in 1971 as a colonel. Notre Dame's 1947 winner John Lujack bookended his time in South Bend around 2 years serving in the Navy. He served on naval submarines, hunting German U-boats in the English Channel as an ensign.
I told everybody that I was stationed at Fort Pierce, Florida, where they taught you underwater demolition team that was going to go in at Normandy, and you had to go underwater and put mines over these barriers and stuff and blow the place up. And they said, wow, that is really something. I said, well, don't get too excited about it because I never got in the water. I was there to play football.
SMU's Doak Walker, who won the 1948 Heisman, served in the Army for a year in 1946 and, like Lujack, saw his time in the service split his college play in half. Princeton 1951 winner Dick Kazmaier, the last Ivy Leaguer to win the Heisman, spent 3 years in the Navy and attained the rank of lieutenant. Oklahoma's 1952 winner Billy Vessels served 1 year as an officer in the U.S. Army. Notre Dame winners John Latner in 1953 and Paul Hornung in 1956 served in the Air Force and Army respectively. Latner served 2 years in the Air Force, and Hornung served in 1961, 5 years into his NFL career with the Green Bay Packers. Hornung did, however, receive weekend passes that fall so he could play for Green Bay, enabling him to lead the NFL in scoring for the third year in a row. Army's 1958 Heisman winner Pete Dawkins became the highest-ranking Heisman winner. Dawkins, who spent 3 years studying at Oxford after finishing at West Point, began his military career with stints in infantry, parachute, and ranger training before getting posted to the 82nd Airborne in 1963, where he commanded a rifle company. Assignments in Vietnam led to commands of a battalion in Korea, a brigade at Fort Ord, and an assignment as an assistant division commander of the 7th Infantry. He commanded the 3rd Brigade of the 101st Airborne en route to becoming a brigadier general. His final posting was in the Pentagon as the Army's Deputy Director of Strategy, Plans, and Policy. Dawkins received 2 Bronze Stars for valor for his service in Vietnam. Asked once about his affinity for the airborne branch, Dawkins said, "It was appealing because elite units, from SEALs and Special Forces to airborne and Rangers, bear a strong resemblance to championship athletic teams in spirit, attitude, and elements of success." Navy 1960 Heisman winner Joe Bellino served through 1965, achieving the rank of lieutenant. He served on a destroyer during the Cuban Missile Crisis, his ship part of fortifications at Guantanamo Bay. He became an executive officer of a minesweeping ship that was deployed 3 times in Vietnam. Following that, he spent another 24 years in the Navy Reserves, retiring as a captain. The last Heisman winner who served was 1963 winner and Navy quarterback Roger Staubach, who served for 2 years in Vietnam as part of the U.S. Navy as a Supply Corps officer and attaining the rank of lieutenant. Interestingly, he was assigned to the Supply Corps because he was colorblind, something missed during his pre-admission exam and something that would have precluded his service. Staubach, who was stationed at a base in Da Nang for 6 months and did another half year at Chu Lai, serviced mainly Marines based in the area. He commanded over 40 men. In an interview with the U.S. Army website, he said he volunteered to join the service because I wanted to give something back. "I came to love the Marine Corps," he said in the U.S. military article, adding that he loves all of the services. "But the Marines, I saw them in action. Some of my teammates were Marines. Some were shot and killed. It wasn't a popular war, but we were asked to do it. It was a shame how our Vietnam veterans were treated." He later was awarded a Purple Heart and a Silver Star for his actions with the 449th Fighter Squadron.
I feel very fortunate I came to the Naval Academy, and I was glad to be able to serve the time I had before I played professional football. I had 4 years, and my obligation was 4 years in the service. And if I wasn't given football another chance, I would have stayed in the Navy. I love the Navy, and I love the Naval Academy.
On this Veterans Day, the Heisman Trust salutes all veterans, past and present. We thank you for your service. Happy Veterans Day to everyone out there. Love that segment. Some really cool stories there for sure. I still can't get out of my mind the image of Tom Harmon walking out of the jungle after crashing his plane. Big thanks goes out to Jerry Emig and Michael Bassford of Ohio State for helping set up Julian Sayin. Thanks to Mr. 80% for coming on the show. Be sure to come back here next week because the plot is thickening. We'll be talking with Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. See you next week. The Heisman Trophy podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. The pod is available on all streaming networks, including Spotify and Apple Music, and features video interviews and bonus content on YouTube and TikTok. We also have a Reddit community. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to Rob Whalen, Tim Henning, and the Heisman Trust for their support. Reach out to us via email at pod@heisman.com for feedback and commentary.